Time for an update. Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. My name is Paul Mount. Before we go any further, a big welcome aboard to new subscribers. Quite a few new subscribers coming on board now every day, every week. Channel's really growing. We're heading towards 950 subscribers. And then, of course, the big push towards the 1,000. So, again, welcome on board. Everybody new's jumped on board recently. Do hope you stick around. Do hope you hang around because there's loads of stuff here. Cult stuff, new stuff, collectibles, bits and pieces, classic TV, classic Doctor Who, all sorts of stuff. So please stick around. Right, it is time for another physical media update. Again, I'm conscious I haven't done one for about 2 months, and as I think I've explained previously, I'm not buying quite so many Blu-rays, DVDs and 4Ks at the moment, only because there's nothing very much that's grabbing my attention. Like a lot of us, a lot of people who collect these things, you pick these things up sometimes from charity shops, and tending to find, because I've got so many discs, that there's not much stuff that I really want to pick up in charity shops anymore. You tend to get the same generic rush of titles. I was in a charity shop in Cardiff yesterday, being Saturday, and quite excited in the distance when I saw 3 big piles of Blu-ray. But when I went to look at them, it was all the usual stuff. A lot of them, the things that were available in Poundland a while ago when they were doing their big clear out. Things like Ted, Taken, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, various rom-coms, Twilights and stuff like that. Nothing at all that really appealed to me there. So I tend to be specific in what I pick up. I pick up things that I want. I like a bargain, so I pick up things in sales. And there are a few other things I've got my eye on. So I think the next one I do will probably have more Blu-rays and DVDs than this one, which has sadly just 3. However, I have expanded this particular format now to include books, magazines, comics, CDs, all sorts of things. So hopefully in the next 10 minutes or so you'll find something that piques your interest in the new bits and pieces I've picked up. I will start off then with the physical media because I know that's what a lot of people like to see. And as I said, only 3 pickups. This one, I don't think I mentioned it in the last one. I think I've only picked this up in the last few weeks. This is Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer in Tim Burton's sequel to Batman. This is Batman Returns. I picked this up from Zavvi. Nice steelbook edition. I think it was about, I can't remember now, $9.99 maybe, $8.99. Might have been a bit more, I can't remember. Yeah, I like the first Batman. I like this Batman. Of course, the series goes a little downhill after that, so I won't be picking up the rest of them, although Batman Forever's not too bad. So maybe if I see that appropriately cheap, I will pick that up. But yeah, I do like this one. I actually prefer this to Batman. I mean, I haven't seen it for years, so I will be rewatching it shortly, so look out for a retro movie review somewhere down the line. No promises as to when, of course. Batman Returns on a very nice 4K edition. It's got the, in fact, I don't think I've even looked at it yet. It's got the L or J card cover. But yeah, I do like a steelbook, so I was quite pleased to pick that up. I picked this one up from Asda, as people refer to it. This is a film which came out earlier this year. I think I did a review on the channel. A sort of an underrated space adventure film. It sort of sailed under the radar a little bit. Didn't make much money, if any money. ISS, International Space Station. This stars Ariana DeBose, Chris Messina, and John Gallagher Jr. All your favourites. And this is a really interesting and quite tense sort of survival story about astronauts aboard the ISS, an American and Russian crew who look down upon the Earth and see that nuclear war has broken out, sweeping across the planet. The authorities of both countries have sent messages to destroy all the secrets and information aboard the station relevant to both countries, which of course sets off sort of a battle for survival amongst the people on board the ship. It's quite tense, claustrophobic, good special effects. And as I said, it didn't do particularly well. It's only about 90 minutes long. And I picked it up from Asda for £7 or £8 last week. I think Asda are in the process of phasing out their physical media. I've seen a couple of YouTube videos where this has been reported as something which is going to be happening, which is a shame because it is the only supermarket now, apart from Morrison's, which sells any sort of physical media or has any physical media present. One of the Asdas I went to in Cardiff yesterday, in Leckwith in Cardiff, used to have a massive selection of stuff. Now it's just literally one shelf of chart DVDs and a few cheapies at the bottom and a few Blu-rays at the side. It's a shame, but that's the way things are going. I don't go to Morrison's very often. I know they have a sort of small selection, but I think as there are going to be phasing them out, so be warned. I also picked up this one, of course. I got this one from Amazon. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This will be in my top 10 list of films later this year when that comes out towards Christmas time. Yeah, a very worthy successor to the recent Planet of the Apes trilogy. It's the first in a new trilogy. It's finding its feet. It is a bit slow to start, but I think once it gets going, once you get used to the new setting, the new characters, it's really thrilling, particularly towards the end, and it does set up where the story is going. This is on 4K, of course, 4K Ultra, and got a nice slip cover with a bit of embossing, and inside you got your discs with photographic representations for the film and not artwork, which is really interesting. This is quite funny, actually. I pre-ordered this a while back from Amazon, 25 quid. Day before it was released, I had an exciting message from Amazon to say the price had come down. I was getting a bit of a refund. 1p, 24.99. There we are. Count the pennies and all that. Right, on to books now. For those of you interested in books, I'll just spin through the books very quickly because they might not be of huge interest to people. I've had this book to review from Starburst magazine. Haven't got around to it yet. I hope to start it next week. It's been a busy couple of weeks with various odds and sods. This is Red Dwarf, Discovering the TV Series, Volume 1, 1988 to 1993. This is a proof copy that's not been edited, and it's not for resale. I think it's out now. This is written by Tom Zielinski, and it is very much it's a sort of a fan publication, I suppose, in that it's very much text heavy. There's no photographs apart from the one on the cover. So it's very much, I think, a fan guide to the series in the style of things you used to get for things like Buffy and Stargate and Farscape years ago. Looking at each episode, picking out the best gags, continuity, fluffs and stuff like that. So yeah, quite interesting. I'm a fan of Red Dwarf, I think. I'm not a rabid fan of Red Dwarf. When it's on, yeah, I always look at it. There's a new series, I think, or mini-series coming up on Dave next year. It's baffling with Red Dwarf. I can't quite understand the BBC's attitude towards it, because it was on BBC Two, and I know that it was one of those things, it was a reluctant commission because of, science fiction. Whoa, we don't like that in Britain. But it was a huge hit. It was having massive viewing figures, 8 million viewers on BBC Two, and after but the 8th series, I think they just lost interest and dumped it, and it just seemed strange. I can't imagine it was a massively expensive show to make, but yes, such are the ways of terrestrial television. Another book for you, another cult TV show. This is Doctor Who. This is a book called The DNA of Doctor Who. This is published by Roundel Books. This is, again, it's a sort of a fan-published book. The DNA of Doctor Who, the Philip Hinchcliffe years. Now, if you're a fan of Who, you will know the Philip Hinchcliffe, who is incidentally the last surviving producer of the original run of Doctor Who. He's now 80. He produced Doctor Who at a time of huge change and huge popularity. When Tom Baker took over in 1974, he and his script editor, Robert Holmes, decided to make Doctor Who a bit more adult and a bit more sophisticated than it had been in the excellent John Pertwee years, and gave the show 3 of its most acclaimed seasons, the first 3 Tom Baker seasons. Thrilling stories, thrilling writing, great acting from Tom Baker in particular. And this book just, I haven't had a chance to look through it properly. Again, it's not massively illustrated. There are photographs and bits, illustrations here and there, but it's very much about the text, looking at his stories. I think there's lots of contribution from Philip Hinchcliffe himself talking about Doctor Who. Hopefully, a week or so's time when I have a bit more free time. I mean, I have plenty of free time, but I do have certain commitments work-wise, writing-wise, odds and sods that keep me from sitting down and getting stuck into something. That's been the case for the last month or so, but certainly after the week after next, I'll be cracking on through a lot of books, a lot of things I've got to get through. More books. Just sort of show you this one. I saw this actually came up on Facebook, a Facebook recommendation. This is a book called Antarctica Station by a writer called A.G. Riddle. This caught my attention because it sounds interesting. Groundbreaking experiment in Antarctica will change everything. It's a sort of a conspiracy type thing set in an Antarctic research base. I'm reading it. I picked it up. I'm not reading it yet, but I picked it up because it's written by A.G. Riddle, who wrote a terrific, very clever time travel book, which was called, as I recall, Lost in Time, which came out a couple of years ago. I remember reading it during the summer, reading it outdoors when we had beautiful summer weather. A really clever, I'm not going to say timey-wimey time travel, but it was very clever with lots of paradoxes and twists and things. And I thought, this sounds interesting. And I think this might be sort of early winter reading. It, that sort of Antarctic setting looks as if it might be quite good fun. These two books I picked up. I was going to do a separate video on them for clickbait, but decided, nah, I don't want to go down that route. These are books published by Anderson Entertainment, based on two of Jerry Anderson's classic TV shows, UFO and Space 1999. Now, some of you may know UFO, one of my favourite TV series of all time. I just love the format of the show. I love the feel of it. I love the stories. It's one of those shows that, unlike today's shows, isn't necessarily character-based, but it does focus quite heavily on Ed Straker, who's the commander of this organisation that's protecting Earth against alien infiltration from a race of dying aliens who've come to Earth to harvest human body parts. Around for 26 episodes. I will at some point do a retro TV feature on it, but I love the series, and I always bemoan the fact that it didn't get more than one series, and it did, though, as many of you will know, it did sort of mutate into Space 1999 when plans for a second series, UFO, were abandoned. Space 1999 was created. And this writer, James Swallow, who's done lots of franchise sort of science fiction books, he's done Doctor Who and so on. He has written two new books based on these series, first of a series, hopefully, of new books. And I've started the UFO. When I read the first chapter, it's quite intriguing. Ed Straker's been part of an experiment with some new psychotropic drugs created by Dr. Jackson of Shadow, and I think it leads him into a sort of hallucinogenic nightmare throughout the rest of the book. So they're novellas, really, rather than books. They're only like 120 pages, so they're not exactly heavy reads, so I'm looking forward to getting to that one quite soon. Them's the books. I will now go on to finish off with just a few other physical media things. CD. Do you remember CDs? Do you remember CDs? I know you kids are all into streaming and downloading and all that sort of stuff. Some of us oldies, we still like to own physical copies of things, particularly music-related things. And I've got a few odds and sods that I picked up over the last week, maybe of no interest to a lot of you. I'm a huge Coldplay fan. Don't hate me. Don't unsubscribe. I'm sorry, I think if you don't like Coldplay, that's fine. But I think they're great. I think they're uplifting. I think there's something joyous and almost magical about their music. Anyway, I picked up the CD single of their latest single release called We Pray. This came out, it was exclusively available from their Coldplay website. It's got 5 versions of the song. There we are, that's very nice. And following on from that, I bought the new album, Moon Music. It's the UK's #1 best-selling album in the UK this week, so they're obviously doing something right. It's a very good album. I've listened to it a couple of times. They've moved into slightly sort of hippie stuff about one world and why can't we all love each other and we're all, you know, it's a bit hippy-dippy. But why not? The world's in a hell of a state. It's quite nice to have somebody trying to be uplifting and positive about the state of things. And of course, it's got some great tunes on it. It's got the 2 singles, Feels Like I'm Falling in Love When We Pray. The next, possibly final Coldplay single, is a beautiful ballad called All My Love. And there's a great track called Good Feelings, which is really uplifting pop banger. And a thing called Eterna, which is a sort of a Balearic sort of dancey things. It's a good album. It's a good album. I also picked up, haven't listened to it yet, Blur's most recent album. This came out earlier in the year, Ballad of Darren. To be honest, I only picked this up to get free postage from HMV because this was 11 quid. I actually ordered it from Amazon. Ordered it months ago from Amazon, and then they sent me an email saying they wouldn't be able to get it to me until the Tuesday. And I wanted it on day of release, but I cancelled it and I ordered it from HMV and it came on Tuesday anyway. But I had to get something else to get the free postage. So I bought the Ballad of Darren from Blur. I do quite like Blur, and I think this is supposed to be a good album. I think it's probably their final album. So I'll be giving this a spin sometime quite soon. Entirely irrelevant, but I picked this up from a charity shop for £1. 80s Mix, Ministry of Sound, dance anthems of the 1980s. I'm a 1980s kid. I love 1980s music. I quite like 1980s dance music. Although my knees will no longer allow me to cut a rug on the dance floor, I do like to listen to these pop bangers. It's got a lot of the usual 80s stuff, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Human League, Soft Cell, Blue Monday, and it's got some dancier stuff later on. So that'll be sort of background stuff. And the final one, also from a charity shop. I was quite pleased to find this, and I was going to sell it, but I think I'm going to keep it. It's the original radio Hitchhikers Guide to the Galaxy series. The full cast original series on, I think it's 3 CDs. I found this in a charity shop not far from me quite recently. The primary fades across 3 CDs. Nicely presented. It's been re-released so many times in so many different versions. And again, not a huge sort of obsessive Hitchhikers fan, but I do like the story and I like the various versions of it. It's quite 80s, quite 70s, 80s sensibility to it now. Whether it's going to sound a bit dated, I don't know. But it's good condition. When I picked it up, I thought that one of the discs was missing, but they'd been sort of double banked. So, yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on CD. That, my friends, is all I have picked up recently. I know it's not the massive pile of DVDs and Blu-rays that you might like to see on other people's videos, and I've done before, but as I said, I'm just not picking up quite too much of that stuff lately. But there will be things coming up in the next couple of months that I will be getting. There's things I've seen in sales, and there's some titles coming up that I want to get hold of, so there will be more stuff to come. Right, hope you've enjoyed this quick revisit to my world of physical media in all its shapes and glorious forms. I will see you soon. Don't forget, if you're new, please stick around. Subscribe if you've just stumbled across this video because you like the thumbnail, which I purposely chose to hopefully attract a few people. Stick around and see what else is to come in my world of stuff. See you soon. Till I do, keep taking the stuff.